All right, we'll give people a minute for the, usually takes a little while for everybody to load in. So we'll give that a few minutes here. For those of you that can hear me, thanks for joining us today. We're excited to have you. And then while we're waiting on these to load, I think we can do it at the same time. I'll go ahead and play a little video for everyone's entertainment here.
As a professional pet care provider, you assume you are good at what you do. But how can you prove to prospective clients that you have the training and skills to provide exceptional care for their pets? The Professional Animal Care Certification Council is here to change that. Independent certification is becoming essential in the pet care industry, and PAC is the not-for-profit organization that offers 3 different levels of certification. Whether you're a provider who spends most of your time hands-on with the pets, a manager, or an operator, there's an exam specially designed for you. PAC certification is how you can set yourself apart as a credible professional in the world of pet care. Validate your knowledge and expertise with certification today. The Professional Animal Care Certification Council. It's safer in a PAC.
Okay. Well, we will go ahead and get started now. And let me just pull up. So before we get to the main event, which is Joe here from Paragon, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a minute or two here to tell you a little bit more about PAC. And Joe, can you see my screen? This is a confirmation.
Yep, I can see it perfect.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us. Just a couple of minutes while we wait for everybody to kind of pile in here. My name is Jess Elmer. I am one of the board members on PAC. I've had the pleasure of being on the PAC board for almost 6 years. I'm in my 6th year now, and it's been a really great experience. And I think we're looking for a few new members. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to us. I just want to take a couple minutes just to share what we're all about at PAC. PAC is has strived to bring independent testing and certification to the pet care services industry. It's all about elevating our industry, keeping the pets safe, keeping the humans that work in our pet care center safe, and really giving those pet parents a resource to go to find a pet care professional that has certification and some proved knowledge. It's a 3-year certification. And let's talk more about it. So what makes PAC a little bit different, or significantly different, I should say, than anything else, is that we're the only third-party certification for pet boarding and daycare. So what is the difference between third-party certification and certificate programs? Because we know that there's a lot of great education out in our industry, and PAC is all in favor of any type of education that you give yourself or that you get your team members. But there is differences between third-party certification and certificate programs. What really sets PAC apart are these things here, and I'm not going to run through them all. But in order to be PAC certified, you have to have some professional experience working with the animals. It's awarded by a third party. So we don't sell any sort of content. We don't sell any sort of certification. This is all done by a third party organization. So when you take your PAC exam, you might be sitting next to people getting their nursing license or their cosmetology license, those sorts of things. So it's a third party organization in which you will go and take the test, or now happily you can take it online. In addition, another separation we have from certificate programs is it has ongoing requirements to maintain the certification. So you do have to obtain CEUs to keep your certification versus a certificate program. You earn the certificate, you put it on your wall, and you can keep it there as long as you like. And again, we have so many great certificate programs in our industry, but it is what sets us apart is having this third-party certification, kind of this unbiased approach. So why is it important to your business? Pet care in many areas is fairly easy to enter. If you have enough money and you put up a fence, there sometimes in many states, there's not a whole lot more that is actually required of you. So our mission at PAC is to really elevate our industry and to separate those who are dedicated to furthering their education from the crowd. And most professions require independent certification, down to, as I mentioned before, down to the person that cuts your hair. There is some sort of certification that is required. It gives you an edge. It's a super competitive market, so it gives you an edge. Not only to your customers, but as Joe, you and I were talking about earlier, but also to your prospective employees. So it's a great thing to share that you are dedicated to increasing the knowledge of the people on your team or for yourself. You'll have confidence in your employees' knowledge. It's a documented way to show the knowledge that you have. And it really can build trust with your pet parents. So just really quickly, I always like to wrap it up. Ask yourself 2 questions. Do you know what you're doing when it comes to caring for people's pets? Do you think you're good at what you do? And if the answer to both of those is yes, then go ahead and prove it with the PAC exam and be able to show off that knowledge that you have gained. So our next exams, I'll just pop this up there, but of course you can also find it on our website. Next exam cycle, we actually have an exam coming in May, but the registration has already passed. So these are the next exam dates for June and November. If you are registered for the exam, don't forget to join our study group. You can just go to Facebook, type in PAC exam study group, and it will be there. And we just encourage you to stay in touch with us. We have a Facebook page that's full of information. It's also, we put out when we have these great educational webinars, that's where they get posted first. And then you have our website right there as well. So for the main event, we are just thrilled and excited to have Joe from Paragon join us today. We were just running through some of the content of the presentation. I'm so excited to share it, for him to share it all with you. He's, of course, many of you already know him. He's a familiar face in our industry, but he's from the Paragon School of Pet Grooming. And we are thrilled to have him not only join us today and provide us great education, but also being such a strong supporter of PAC. And helping us really get this mission known and about elevating our industry and bringing it to that next level. So Joe, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And if you have questions for Joe, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box. We're happy to take questions throughout. So pop those in there and we will answer those as soon as we get to them. So Joe, take it away. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you, Jess. Appreciate it. Thank you to the incredible team at PAC, not only for the invitation to be here today and spend some time with your audience, but also just for what you do. I absolutely do believe in what it is you're doing, and we are supportive and proud supporters supporters of PAC, and we'll show some examples of how we support PAC later in this session. But a big shout out to all of you that are tuning in live with us, and then to all of you that are going to carve time out of at some point in some day to watch this as a replay. It's really great is there. I still believe, and I've made my career in the belief that I think we're in the best industry on the planet. The pet industry has served me well, not only in my career, but I've been able to watch some really great people flourish in this industry, and really the pet parents and the pets themselves are better because of all of that. A little bit about myself. This obviously it's not about me, it's about you, and it's about growing your teams. But a little bit about me, just so you know sort of who I am. If my name or my face is not familiar to you, my name is Joe Zuccarello, and I have been in the pet industry I just started my 37th year in the pet industry. So I spent about 22 years of my career on the pet services side in full service pet care facilities in a chain of a very high end, very first class 5-star pet resorts, doggy daycares, grooming spas, training facilities, and such. At one point before I left that company, and they're still doing really well. They're a great group of people there. But when I left, we had about 250 employees. I could board about 650 dogs a night. I had 60 dog groomers that worked for me. We did about 100,000 grooming appointments every year. I had 22 dog trainers, and we were an invisible fence dealer. I mean, it was 150 to 200 dogs a day in daycare. It was a busy business. But I got to meet some really cool people, and I got to fail a lot. I got to fail a lot in pet services, and I watched a lot of people failing. But you know what? Now that I'm on the education side of our industry, failure is part of learning, right? So what I hope to do to be able to provide for you today is a little bit of my experiences and experiences that I pulled from many different people. But after about 22 years in the pet services side, I went to the product side. So I led the innovation and product development team at a grooming and dental products company for pets. And then after about 10 years of that, I joined, and right now still currently have the honor of leading some really cool educators, some really great educators in the pet grooming space at Paragon School of Pet Grooming and LearnToGroomDogs.com. So we'll give you a little bit of a preview of our site, because there's some really awesome stuff there, some free resources for you to take advantage of, not only on just this topic that we're presenting on today, but multiple different topics to just help you, who I'm gathering are mostly either employers or managers or owner operators of pet care facilities. So whether you are a full service pet care facility, whether you're a doggy daycare facility or a grooming facility, or a little bit of all of those, today's message is going to be perfect for you, because it's all about how do we even try to compete in the world of staffing right now. You can't help, you turn around and it's doom and gloom everywhere, right? It's lack of people, what would now, I guess, was it at some point considered non-traditional employment opportunities. What do you mean by that, right? What do you mean by that, Joe? What I mean is Uber and DoorDash and Lyft and with the pandemic just accelerating all of those things, all of the grocery shopping delivery companies, the pick and the Shipt and all of these others that are delivering products to your door. Mobile grooming is one. So we've got a lot of these at-home services that have really started to flourish, and they've offered an opportunity for people who normally would have only been able to go to work brick and mortar, to now find alternative, or what was at one point considered non-traditional employment. Well, how do we compete? So hopefully after today's session, you'll be able to actually feel like you've got a little bit more of an advantage after an hour together, or about 45 minutes left together, than what you had coming in today. So, but I would, as Jess said, please do us a favor. We want this to be interactive. So I've got a screen open on my right-hand side. So over here, it's the Q&A box, right? If you have a question that's in your head, get it in the Q&A box. Resist putting it in the chat. Try to put it in the Q&A and not the chat. This way, then we can sort of keep track of it. And Jess is going to be awesome. She's going to help me keep track of questions, especially this can be a really hot topic. So we don't want to miss your questions that we can answer. So, and we're going to try to at the end, if we do things correctly, we manage our time well, we'll have some time at the very end for some live Q&A as well. Okay, and that's another benefit for attending these things live, right? All right, so how do we, this seems like a big hairy question, right? The big HQ, the big hairy question. I know in the pet industry that's very appropriate, right? But the big HQ, the big hairy question is, how do we compete as employers in this space, in our type of business? And what's interesting is I'd like to believe that I'm a really good purveyor of people. I study people, I watch how people buy things, I watch how people interact. And I start to sort of connect the dots, and I connect the dots with my failures and successes. And I'm also a consultant in the pet industry, helping people just like you own and operate more productive and profitable pet care service businesses. We can talk about that later, but bringing some of the experiences from even my consulting clients forward to help strengthen all of us in an industry. Because one thing that we all have a responsibility to do is improving the professionalism in this profession. We all have a responsibility to that, and being a superstar, rock star employer certainly plays in well with that. So as we're looking at trying to be a competitive employer in today's crazy marketplace for people, one thing we have to do is we have to sort of break it down, and I'm going to break it down into 4 pieces for you to remember, and just take some of the bits and pieces of this and apply it. And I think you're going to be in a much better shape. The thing that we have to start off with first, though, is sometimes we are just too close to the action to see what's really going on. So I'm going to ask that as we explore these different ideas today, that you take notes, ask your questions in the Q&A field, but go back and have an opportunity, get a discipline of take a step back from your business for just a little bit and look at it from another layer out, 2 layers out, so that you can really see the perspective of your business. Because some of these things might be sort of a little bit aha moments, but there's going to be a lot of the things that I'm going to share with you today you probably knew already. It just needs somebody to remind you and help you sort of craft that approach. All right, so without further ado, we've got 4 main pieces of this thing that I call employ differently. All right, what's employ differently? Well, what I mean by this is we are competing for new employees. Very first thing we have to figure, and this isn't one of the 4 yet, but where we put the mindset we need to be in is, who are we competing against? Who are we competing against for new employees? All of these non-traditional jobs, absolutely, we're competing against them. Are we competing with Betty's Pet Lodge down the street? Yes. Are we competing with Bob's grooming salon down the street? Yes. Are we competing with Dorothy's daycare? Yes. But you're competing with all employers. All employers. Are you competing with Target? Yes. Are you competing with Subway? Yes. You're competing with all employers, and especially for your entry-level positions. I call them our mailroom positions, right? They're the entry level. They're our ground floor positions. You're competing with these people, and you've got to do it better, because some of it used to be we could almost sit back and say that it was okay to, I don't want to say underpay people, but let's say pay people less than they might get at other types of employers, because we had the benefit of this emotional transaction that happened, right? Because you can work with pets and you find fulfillment in working with pets, and all of those things are still there. But if the difference, right? If the difference in our pay, especially, is $3, $4, $5 an hour, listen, I can hate my job for a long time to make $3 or $4 more an hour than what other employers are willing to pay me, right? So the very first thing we've got to think about in this employ differently is, who are we competing against, and are we paying a competitive wage? It starts there. You could build a phenomenal place, all right? And if you hear a hum on my mic, they decided today to do street repair outside of my office. So if you hear it, I'm sorry. I'm hoping my voice will drown that out.
I haven't heard it at all.
Okay, just be
Yeah,
prepared
so
because
you're
they
good.
must have just come back from lunch. So I can,
Yeah.
okay. So anyway, so you could build a phenomenal culture. You could build a phenomenal facility. You could have great management and leadership techniques. You can have all things all stack up perfectly. But if you're not able to pay competitively, you're going to lose more than you win. That's just how it is. So instead of looking at your pricing, right? Instead of looking at your pricing from I charge this much, therefore I can afford to pay this much. You have to look at it from the opposite perspective. Because I have to pay this much, I need to charge this much. Okay. So it's a different way than what we've looked at things traditionally for my 35, 6, 7 years in the industry, right? From more of a, but you have to look at it from very similar to manufacturing, from a cost perspective, a cost-based pricing perspective, in order to establish how much you should be charging. Anyway, that topic on its own is a whole other webinar. But anyway, I'm just giving it sort of a little bonus tidbit to say, if you're not competitive on what you're paying, everything I'm going to talk to you about today is going to be 10 times harder than what it needs to be. All right. So let's say we are at least competitive. In fact, my perspective, I like to be able to charge enough for me to pay my staff ahead of fair. Ahead of fair, not fair, not just below fair, because this emotional transaction happens because they get to work with pets, right? Ahead of fair. I don't want somebody to leave my employment because of the money. Now, unless they're getting like graduated college and they can go on and make, double the money because now they have a degree or whatever, right? But I mean, for the same competitive sort of position in the marketplace, as far as employees are concerned, I don't want them to leave because of 25 cents, 50 cents, a dollar, whatever that looks like. Okay. All right. So 4 main pieces of employee differently. Here we go. Right. The number one thing we have to do is we have to market differently. You're like, wait a minute, market? What are you marketing? I'm not a market. Well, you know what? Ever since the beginning of people trading something for something, whether it was bartering, whether it was money for services or money for product, we have done in business, we've done a better than average job of marketing our services and our products to our customers. I would think we'd all agree with that, right? That's what we do. We say, you want to bring your pet here. You don't want to bring your pet over there. Not that we're going to talk bad about over there, right? But we're going to say, we're going to exalt, we're going to elevate what we do here in order to get our customers to want to bring their pet here, not somewhere else. Or Jimmy, the neighbor, taking care of their dog, right? We want to have a better than home experience, or whatever, however you wrap that up, right? We've done a really great job of marketing. You want to do business with us. Well, here's the question then. If marketing yourself differently to be a better or more competitive employer is important, how well do you do marketing to your future employees? Do you do a good job of saying, you want to work here, you don't want to work over there? You see, it's the same technique, it's just for a different group of customers. So sort of embedded in this market differently, I'm going to give you some examples, but in this market differently is you really have 2 types of customers. And maybe you've heard of it referred to this before, but you have external customers. Well, those are the bipeds that are bringing in the pets, right? Those are the human beings that are bringing in the dogs and the pets, the dogs and cats for us to take care of them, right? Those are our external customers. But we have internal customers, and those are our staff. How well do you market for internal customers? Most of us, quite honestly, most of us do a pretty lousy job, right? And then you're like, well, wait a minute. No. I've got an Indeed ad out there. I've got a Monster. I've got ZipRecruiter. I participate in all of those. I'm on the job boards for, lodging and daycare and grooming. I'm on all those. That's not marketing. It's not marketing. We're going to get to recruiting in just a minute. Okay. What that is you've got some ads placed. But when somebody encounters your business, maybe you catch their attention somewhere. Maybe it is on one of those platforms, and they go to your website. They visit your social media. They want to know, they're trying you out before you even know who they are. I can guarantee you that they're doing that, right? Okay, so they're trying you out. What do they see? Do you have a web page? Do you even have a website? Okay, and I'm not saying that everybody has to have a website, because some people prefer to have the Facebook presence and everything, but whatever you do, are you doing it to attract those people, those internal customers that you're trying to convince them you want to work here? You don't want to work over there. Why do you want to work here? That's what you're trying to answer in all of your marketing efforts. Do you show, and I'll bet that if I went to your website, this is probably 90% of the people that I work with. If I went to your website, I'm probably going to see happy dogs. I'm going to see dogs playing. I'm going to see dogs in rooms with televisions and, satellite TV and toddlers beds and or dogs with beautiful haircuts, right? Am I going to see happy people? Am I going to see not just a person with a dog? That's a gimme. You got to be able to do that, right? Have a happy person with a happy dog. But do you have just two happy people or three happy people talking with each other on a careers page on your website? Why it's awesome to work here? Do you have videos that you collect from employees, right? That talk about how awesome it is to work at your facility? Do you post that not only on your website on a careers page? Do you know what a careers page is? Go to careers pages out there for banks or amusement parks, or listen, if you're competing against everybody else, go to Target's website, go to Subway's website, go to everybody you feel like you're competing with in your market, go to theirs career page and tell me, do you have one that even holds a candle to their career page? Okay. People want to go to work at a place that they're going to be surrounded by people that are like them or that they will like to be around. We're at work, especially we're still brick and mortar, right? Most of us are still operating in a space where we're trying to get people to come and spend time in our building taking care of pets and the people that love them. So that's a long day. That could be 4 hours for a part-timer, 5 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours a day. They want to know where they're coming to work. Now, here's the challenge. If you don't have a place that looks like that, that feels like that, that would be encouraging, maybe you've got some work to do, and that's okay, right? We can help you in that regard. So, just try to build the best place you can. Not like build. Now, if you're building, great, right? Try to remodel, do whatever, but try to present, try to live in reality. Again, marketing cannot be fake, right? We're not here to lie to people. They'll see right through you. They're only going to be there for a week or two at that point, right? Okay. But do you have happy people? And some of the things we're going to talk about in toward the tail end of this is about trying to have happy people, right? Trying to make sure we create a place where people can be happy and feel successful and fulfilled. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you don't have a careers page, and you cannot, a careers page, it doesn't qualify if all on your career page has open positions. That doesn't count. That's not a careers page. That's a glorified Indeed. That's your own little personal attempt at Indeed, okay, or a job posting. What I mean is, do you explain what people can do at your facility, especially if you're looking at something like dog trainers or dog groomers? Those are skilled labor positions that are really, they're a career. So you could talk about a career in dog grooming. You could talk about a career in pet training. Okay. Now, is somebody going to have a career as a doggy daycare technician? Well, maybe not, right? But that's okay. We're still going to say, we're not going to lie to people, but we're going to say, well, it might have hard work, and that's okay. But because of the people you're surrounded with, you can feel fulfilled and supported. So those are just some thoughts on marketing differently. On your social media, again, these are people interactions. If you're trying to attract people, you have to show people interacting with people. If you're trying to attract customers with dogs, you want to appeal with customers with their dogs. So again, testimonials, video testimonials, written testimonials by your staff. If you have a retention rate with your team members that's above average, it means people stay with you longer, they don't quit you or leave you. If you have a retention rate that's worth boasting about, boast about it. Again, what is going to cause them to think about they want to come to work here, not there? Okay. Again, happy people who look like future employees. If you, and again, some of us have, I get it. Some of us don't have happy employees. Some of us do everything we can to keep them happy, but they're just not. Well, you know what? If we have to hire models, we have to hire models. I mean, pull out all the stops. You're trying to refresh and replenish your staff, right? Okay. So wherever you're starting from, we can talk about techniques to help you get to marketing differently. But remember, external customers versus internal customers. Okay. All right. We're going to come back to that example in just a little bit on the element number 4. Okay. All right. Element number 2 about employing differently is recruiting differently. Now, I talked about Indeed and Monster and ZipRecruiter, or Craigslist used to be the newspaper, right? All right. On all of those places, I still think you should have a hook in those ponds, right? You should have a line in those ponds. But remember, so does everybody else. So if you have just a really boring job posting, well, you're probably going to get boring results. So what does a job posting look like, right? Go and read everybody else's. And then if you've got to hire somebody to write a job posting that captures the essence and the personality of your business, well, then you might want to do that. Okay. Now, on the ParagonPetSchool.com website, and I'm going to show you some examples of this in just a little bit. On the ParagonPetSchool.com website, I'm going to show you some examples of sample job postings, sample job descriptions, things like that. But you find inspiration somewhere and be able to borrow from that. So recruiting differently starts with, how do we catch their attention? If you can imagine, employees are like cars on a freeway, right? Right? They're buzzing by. They got busy lives and right, they don't even know about you. You're a signpost on the side of the freeway, right? Okay. If in this traffic you can get in front of them, right, and say, hey, come here, look at me. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to catch their attention and send them where? Back to your careers page on your website that you have now awesomely created, right? Okay. So recruiting differently, however, doesn't stop with just a well-worded job posting. Again, you need those, keep those out there. But what's your social media presence for new employees? And again, some of these things you're like, man, I do that, right? All right. But when I say recruiting, I mean being proactive. You've got to go find them. You got to go find them. What I mean by that is, I often use a comparison. Let's say you're down in Florida, right? The fish are not going to jump into the seafood restaurant, no matter how much you try. I almost guarantee you a fish is not going to jump into a seafood restaurant. You've got to be a fisher. You've got to be a fisherman, a fisher person, whatever you call. Go get them, right? You've got to be more proactive. Here are a couple of very real life examples. If you are not known by first name and company reputation with every high school guidance counselor in your area, you're not doing enough. So wait a minute, Joe, what do you mean? Do I have to call all these high school guidance counselors? Yes. Here's what happens. You've got these young people who are coming up through high school, right? And maybe they're 14, 15, 16 years old. And yeah, you need to start getting in front of them when they're 14 or 15 years old. I started when I was an early teen, and a lot of you might have started when you were an early teen. So hire young, a lot less bad habits that way, a lot less direction that way, but they're more impressionable and they're not bringing as many bad habits. Extra little bonus, right? So don't be afraid to hire young. Okay. All right. But as these young people are growing up through high school, newsflash, college may not be the best course for them after high school. So if they go into their guidance counselor, this is real life. They go into their guidance counselor and they say, I don't know that college is right for me. Okay, well, what do you like to do? Well, I like animals. Great. You need to be a veterinarian, or you need to be a veterinary technician. If you don't give these high school guidance counselors another option to put in front of those students, you're not doing it well. So think about this. You create a really nice, it could be a printed out version of what? Your cool new career page on your website, right? You could print this out, or you could create a PDF or another document, a flyer, and email that, and even bring printed copies to every high school guidance counselor in your neighborhood. Now, I don't know where you live, but I bet there's got to be a high school somewhere around you, right? I don't care if it's one or if it's multiple. In my neighborhood, I can go 10 minutes in any direction and hit 4 high schools. 4 high schools in 10 minutes in any direction. And I will tell you, these places are like little cities. There's probably 1,500 to 2,000 young people in these high schools every day with multiple guidance counselors. So if I can get to 4 of them in 10 minutes, each with, let's just round down, 1,500 students, that's 6,000 students. If I can get 1% of those students to consider a position at my company, or if that was the same in your business, the same, consider a position in your company, 1%, you'd have enough employees, you'd have enough new employees for every year. Okay. So again, who is speaking to the same audience that you want to speak to? Guidance counselors, high schools, all day long. So first name basis, yes. Hey, this is Joe from Joe's Pet Lodge. I just want to let you know we're coming up on spring break and summer, and I need employees. Who do you have that you help guide? And you know, again, multiple guidance counselors that might have an affinity, might have an interest in working with pets. I'd love to meet them. Okay, give them another reason to funnel those people toward you. If the high school has job fairs, be there at job fairs. Another proactive way of element number 2, which is recruit differently. If you have community events like farmers markets and places like that, okay, everybody loves a dog, right? Everybody loves seeing dogs and petting dogs. Get a couple people from your staff, head out to some of those, put a banner on a table and talk about, and you're doing interviews right there. Take them right behind the table, not behind some curtain or something. That might be kind of creepy, but take them just off to the side and just say, let me get to know you a little bit. Cool. Fill this document out, fill out this online app, whatever, right? What a great way to capture their attention. Of course, if you have pet events in your area, like, you know, in St. Louis where I'm at, we have what's called Bark in the Park, right? So you can have a little table or a little tent or something. Don't go there to sell boarding. Don't go there to sell daycare. Go there to recruit. Okay, maybe half getting business from external customers and half from internal customers. But how many of you have attended an event like that and all you're doing is trying to get more daycare, more lodging, more training, more grooming appointments, and you forget about the employee part? Bet you won't now. Okay. In fact, I would even have a staff member who is awesome, who might even relate best to somebody that I'm looking to hire. You know, that profile that we're looking for. They are the people recruiter, and you might be the customer recruiter. So you've got an employee recruiter and a customer recruiter. Okay. That's how you recruit differently. I want to share a screen with you because there's another couple techniques that I want to show you. But if I go to, let me find my screen that I wanted to share with you here because it just went away. Okay, so if you go to,
Joe, we're not seeing it. Okay, it's popping up now.
There we go.
Yep.
Okay, if you go to this page, this is ParagonPetSchool.com, and we'll put the address up there. And Terry, I haven't forgot about your Dairy Queen commercial or your Dairy Queen question. We're going to get to that. Again, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A field, and we're going to make sure we come back around to them. All right. But if you go to ParagonPetSchool.com and you go over here to Resource Center and you click Employer Resources, all right, it's going to bring you to this page here. And look at all this cool, this is all free stuff, guys, right? All right. This is, let's figure out where, for example, where are we going to go find future groomers? Here's a future groomer recruiting guideline. It's a PDF. You download it, you save it, you print it off, you study it, you act on it however you want to. But recruiting, it talks about where else can you find people that might have a predisposition to being good in grooming, and heck, for that matter, all pet services. Do you know the leader of your local 4-H club? These 4-H kids are raising cattle and pigs and And livestock, you think a little bit of cat scratch or cat litter or dog poo or dog pee or hair or slobber is going to bother somebody like them? No. Do you know the leader of your scouting groups? Scouting groups, these young people are made to be resourceful and think on their feet and be creative. Scouting groups, do you know who those people are? Do you call the local equestrian clubs or the horsemanship or the stable places in your area? Now, if you live in Manhattan, right, you probably don't have 4-H, might not have equestrian groups. We can talk. Maybe we get a little bit more creative, but for most of us out there, the other 95% of the people probably listening and watching this, these are just some examples, and they're here on the Recruiting Future Groomers Guide. Creating a culture employees don't want to leave. We've got that. We've got return on investment calculator, which if I'm going to spend money training my own staff, when do I get that money back? What do they have to do in productivity for me to get that money back and then even be more profitable from there? We've got sample job descriptions here. We've got career page templates. Oh, remember that career page? There's some templates here. All right. And again, it might not be in your brand colors. It might not be in your font that you like to use, but you can borrow the language from it. And you can use it as inspiration. Okay. So those are just some areas that I would recommend that you go to help you with element number 2, which is recruit differently. Remember, recruiting is go get them. Recruiting is not what element number 3 is, which is hiring differently. Element number 3 is hiring differently. But before we do that, I want to hop over here. Terry's question. My Dairy Queen has a huge sign that says starting wage $15 an hour and free iPhone upon being hired. Great. You at least, you know what I love about signs from other employers? They're making it easy for us to know how much they're paying people that we're also trying to get. So I wish everybody had a sign out there. I think that's wonderful. At least you don't have to play like secret spy agent person and try to figure out how much they're paying. They're advertising it. That's wonderful. Thank you, Dairy Queen. Appreciate that. Okay. Heck, everybody already has a phone. Let's give them a tablet maybe, or do something else for them, right? We can get creative. Okay. All right. All right. So, all right. Element number 3, hiring differently. Oh, wait a minute. We just talked about that. No, we didn't. We talked about recruiting differently. There's a difference between recruiting and hiring. Hiring is, all right, let me walk down memory lane. Remember when you'd put an ad out there and you might get like, a couple dozen or even 100 applicants, right? And you would take a week or 2 to sort of sift through those. And then you would call people. And by the time you got them on the phone for a real quick phone interview, that's another week. And then you sort of whittle that list down. And then you have them in for a face-to-face interview. And that takes about another week. And then you then whittle that down. And then maybe you've only got like a handful now of people that have really, risen to the top, your top cut, right? Your top draft picks for new employees. And you have maybe have them in for a second interview. So that takes another week or so. And then you make your hiring decision and they've got to give a 2-week notice, which we hope that they do, right? We would never discourage that. But then they would give a 2-week notice. I don't know if anybody's keeping track, but I think I got up to about 8 weeks. 8 weeks. That's terrible. In 8 weeks' time, an employee right now at an entry-level position probably had 2 to 3 jobs. They probably accepted and been at, a couple days here, a couple days there. They're just testing it out, right? Okay. All right. So what we have to do, and I know this is going to blow your minds when I tell you this, but we have to reduce the period between interested employee candidates to offering them the job 3 days. 3 days. Yeah, 3 days. 3 days. So you've got to be invested. You got to be ready. You got to be prepared, because if you don't move quick, they're gone. They're hired by somebody else. Why do you think they ghost you when you reach out to them? Because they already got hired. Well, Joe, they just applied a day ago, 2 days ago, 3. They got hired already. It's like losing a house in the housing market right now. Okay, you got to have the best offer. You do. You just have to have the best offer as best as you can. Yes, stretching the limit. I can't afford to pay that. Then charge more. I mean, you see a pattern here. Okay. All right. So I guess what I'm talking about here is hiring differently. How do we do 3 days? Day number 1, somebody shows interest. We need to be texting. Yes, texting that person to set up our next conversation with them. If you're emailing them, forget it. Because they're not going to email you back. Talk to how many, go talk to a 20-something. Go talk to a late teens. They don't email. They don't. They text. So speak their language. Text. Guys, this is called employ differently. You have to be different. Even if it's not comfortable. You got to do it differently, right? You got to meet them where they're at. So text them. Text them that day. Text them that hour. Text them a couple hours later. I know you're busy, owner operators, but I'm trying to help you with that. Let's get staff so you don't have to be busy working in your business, and you can work more on your business so that you have time to build a stronger team, right? It starts somewhere. So anyway, separate topic altogether as well. But 3 days. Interested? We text them. Instead of a phone interview, do a Zoom interview, a 10-minute Zoom interview. Don't do a phone interview. Everybody's familiar with Zoom. You're on one right now. All right. I can assure you the people that you're looking to hire are very familiar with Zoom. Do a Zoom interview, a video Zoom interview with them. It's very important because you get to see them. Not that you're going to judge on who gets a job by what they look like, but you get to see them. You get to see what they're wearing. You get to see how much effort they put behind putting their background. You know, if they have one of those fake backgrounds like they're on the moon, that's not good. I don't love that. Okay. You know what I also like about Zoom versus a phone call? Well, I'm sorry. Zoom replaces the initial phone call and it replaces the initial face-to-face interview. It's a 10-minute, have 2 questions to ask that are the most important 2 questions for you to know the answer to before they would proceed to the next level, and ask those 2 questions. 10 minutes. If they ghost you and they don't show up, okay. Have a whole bunch of them set up every 10 minutes. Bang, bang, bang. It's like speed dating, right? Okay. You ask 2 questions, they get 1 question, move on. Okay. All right. So it takes the place of the phone call and the initial face-to-face interview. So that's day 2. Day 3, invite them in for a face-to-face interview and a tour of your facility. Day 3.5, the afternoon of day 3, extend job offers. That's your 3-day plan. Sometimes it has to balloon to 4 because of availability. I get all of that, but shoot for 3. And I think you're going to see a dramatic difference in what is key element number 3 in this process of employing differently, hire differently. So you have to reduce the time it takes from interest to offer. 3 days. Use technology to your advantage. Texting and Zoom. Make those your 2 best friends. Okay. All right. Number 4. Yes, go ahead, Jess.
In the chat box, someone, Kirsten is agreeing with you that waiting, she's lost some good candidates there. She's hosting, and maybe you're going to get to this, just want to put it out there, but now she's hosting orientations twice a week. Maybe give some thoughts on that now or sometime in the presentation.
Yeah, I can address that right now. I think that's great. So Kirsten, you have, you're living it, right? So I love what you've done. You've changed, right? You're doing something differently. I do, when you talk about orientations, I'm gathering maybe that you have multiple people at the orientations. It might be 1 or might be more than 1. I have never been, not saying it's wrong, not saying it's right. I've not been a fan of doing multiple people there for the same event, like a group orientation or a group activity. I like to spend one-on-one time with employees. I like for them to be able to ask questions. I mean, think about how awkward it is the first time you were in a group, you didn't know anybody. For an employee, especially a younger person, it can be really, really awkward. So we might not be hearing, seeing, or getting the best out of our people if they're part of a group. Now, if you're thinking, if orientations are new hire orientations, so you've hired them and you're bringing them on and you're doing, I love that. Let's get people started. What is that process of onboarding? What's that if you don't have a process of onboarding, you need to. That brings us to key element number 4, retain differently. Retaining good employees means you keeping them past the first day, the first week, the first month. Let's get crazy, folks. The first year, right? Okay. How do we retain differently? It starts with new hire orientation. It starts with getting them started on the right foot. And the best way that I can say to do that is, we've all heard of, when I hire you, you're on a 2-week probationary period. I don't know about you guys, but probation makes me feel like I'm in trouble right from the beginning. right? I'm a half a step out the door. So I'm on probation. I like introductory period. And what I would encourage you to do is to put together a plan for the introductory period. It might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, depends on your facility, depends on your needs. Okay. If you're a full service pet care facility, this is at least a week, if not a week and a half to 2 weeks. And what I mean by that is this person, you've got to have people that work for you right now. Gosh, I hope so. And if not, we'll help you change it. But you've got to have people that work with you right now that you would love to clone, that you would love to copy. The new person doesn't spend any time with anybody other than those people, period, the first 2 weeks. Okay? So in order to do that, you've got to meet with those people. You've got to meet with those, I call them guides, these new employee guides. It should not be only you. It shouldn't be only you. You've got hopefully you've at least got one or more other people that are great, that can influence, leave an impression on this new person, right? So let's leverage the skills and superpowers of people we like already to create more people that we like already, right? Okay, so have a plan. Day number one, maybe they're with you day number one. They're getting to know some things or whatever. I would say that the time with you has to be very minimal. In fact, I would encourage you to try to structure a plan that the time with you is very, very minimal, because you want them with your other team members, but you've got to talk to the team members you want to clone or copy and get them trained on how to spend the time with this person. This introductory period is not only about learning how to do things, but it's also to gauge the team's acceptance of this new person and the new person's acceptance of the team. So let's involve the team, the ones you want to clone, the ones you want to copy. Okay. So, but train those people, train those guides to then give you feedback on that person once their time with that person is over. So maybe you have a week or 2 week introductory period. What are we looking for? We're looking for people that get freaked out by dog hair, by dog pee, being wet all day, dogs jumping up on them, dogs barking, dogs charging at them, all of these different things. That's what we're looking for. Okay. At the end of every day, now this takes some discipline, but remember, you're employing differently now, right? At the end of every day, you take 3 to 5 minutes and you talk to that new employee and you say, how did today go? Because the worst thing that can happen is that person goes home, maybe they're frustrated, they're confused, they're scared, they're fearful, they just don't know. And they go home and they have a conversation with whoever. And then they decided that this might not be for them. Wouldn't you rather head that off before they go home? I would. Okay, that's retaining differently. The last part of retaining differently, and we're going to hop into Q&A and such. The last part of retaining differently is creating a culture that people don't want to leave. And what I really like about that is there's a really simple model for this, and that is we are all second graders at heart. We're all big second graders. We like recognition. We like hearing our own name. We like the really the low cost recognition. We like, in some cases, seeing our name displayed somewhere. We like a pat on the back. We like a high five. We like whatever that looks like. We like recognition, and it only has to be the small stuff. Don't wait for your staff to do big things. Recognize the small stuff. Recognize the small stuff. And I'll tell you one way that you can recognize the small stuff. 2 simple words. Thank you. It goes a long way. Telling them thank you for what you do here. I appreciate you. I couldn't think about a day without you here. Those things, that's huge recognition. A second, very inexpensive way, and I love this one, very inexpensive way to recognize somebody is to give them a little bit of authority, to give them a little bit of power, to give them a little bit of responsibility outside of their normal job. For example, maybe they're one of your introductory guides for new staff. It's a really great way of recognizing them. Maybe you're looking to create a video library of training videos, these little 15, 20, 30-second training videos on how to mop a floor, how to vacuum, how to put a leash on a dog, how to take a dog outside. Oh, and if you're not creating that, by the way, you probably should. But what a great way to recognize people in your business that are doing this well by asking them to shoot these little 20 to 30-second video snippets and send those to you so you can build this library. So you build an army of people that are doing even small things correctly. Because if you recognize those things and you use those people are going to feel exalted. They're going to stay longer. You're going to have more steady business. Your customers are going to come in. Your service level is going to be higher than anybody else. Customers are going to pay more. You can pay staff more. Before you know it, you're a force to be reckoned with. So, real quick recap, and we've got 7 minutes left before we have to hop off. But very first thing, employ differently, right? Number one, market differently, recruit differently, hire differently, and retain differently. Those are your 4 keys. I just want to say thank you to all of you for spending part of your day, whether you're watching it live or you're watching a replay, spending part of your day with me. If you want to check out the really cool things we're doing at Paragon to help you grow, again, we're a trade school for dog groomers, right? So if you want to grow your grooming business by growing your own grooming staff and not having to look for dog groomers anymore, yeah, send me a quick email, reach out to me directly, go through the info fill out the form on the ParagonPetSchool.com webpage. Anything, get connected with me or a member of my team, and we'll show you how that is absolutely possible and happening with hundreds of students every single day in our program, learning the art of dog grooming. Okay, so I know we had Terry asked another question. Do you mind if I opted at Jess?
Yeah, Joe, just real quick, let me provide the CEU code because we don't like to
yeah,
put it
go right
right
ahead.
there at the end. This is good for a PAC CEU today. So if you have a PAC certification, the CEU code is C as in cat, C as in cat, 2200008. And I'll also put it in the chat box along with Joe's information there too. But okay, Joe, let's get to the questions.
Okay, real quick though, I do want to share, because we are supporters of PAC, any enrollment of your students in a Paragon program, any of our distance learning programs, also qualify for CEUs. So people that are that are searching for their CEUs or need to get more CEUs, if they get enrolled in the Paragon program and complete, they do get. I mean, we built some pretty assertive CEU rewards here that should make a big difference in what they a big splash on what they need every year. Okay, so yeah, so let's hop to the questions. I saw Terry asked another one. Do you find that reaching out to guidance counselors, 4-H leaders is like marketing to vets? You have to continually remind them that you are there and looking, or does it tend to stick right away? They're not going to do it if you don't do it. So your business is most important to you. Your business is not most important to them. So absolutely, you need to do it continuously. In fact, put it on your calendar. Go in and put in, if you've got 6 guidance counselors that you want to reach out to quarterly, put them on, 6 days in a particular week or 1 day, and just have that reminder come up every quarter for you to do it. It is absolutely worth the effort. So great question.
And then I see in the chat box, but Don, Joe, I'll read it to you.
Okay.
It's not clear to me. So Donna, maybe you can clarify if Joe doesn't understand, but it says at the end, can you address just starting to hire, no employees yet, just me? Okay, so it sounds like she's on her own right now, just getting started.
Yeah, so she's a lone wolf right now, and that's okay. This is a very important time for you, Donna, especially if you're looking to hire your first staff member, your first employee. If it was ever important for you to find somebody that you click with, that is sort of the yin to your yang, I think that this is the time that when you need to really focus on that. So just pay particular attention to, Donna, what are your weaknesses? And I know sometimes we don't like to admit to them, but we all have them, right? So get familiar with your weaknesses as much as you might be familiar with your superpowers. Find somebody that might complement and fill in the gaps on your weaknesses. And I think that would be a really strong start when there's really only going to be 2 of you. So sort of the Robin to your Batman sort of thing. So for all of you superhero fans out there. So
cool. And then one more question that was emailed in. Somebody wrote that they typically have stayed away from hiring younger folks, but that's something that you focused on pretty heavily at the beginning. Can you provide any insight into what potential downsides are for hiring young people and maybe how to overcome that? Yeah,
so younger people, again, talk to talk to a lot of people. I've talked to thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. It's amazing. Just talk to some of the people in pet care services and ask them when they started.
Mhm.
Some of you might have been those people. You might have been 14, 15, 16 years old. So again, some of the downsides is that they're young. They don't have a lot of experience. They don't have, they're young. They don't have a lot of experience. They don't, maybe they don't know any better, right? Sometimes those types of things. And if they like it, they stay longer. What are some of the advantages? They're younger. They don't know any better. They don't have a lot of experience. And if they like it, they stay longer.
Mhm.
Really, it could be a disadvantage or an advantage. Just know what you're getting in, know who you're engaging with. The thing you have to remember about young people right now, and it's I don't want to overgeneralize, but I'm gonna tell you, you have to, don't assume anything, just know that there's a better than not chance that they have not had somebody that's instilled work ethic or discipline yet with them. Just know that going in. Don't be surprised that, well, don't you have a parent that told you how to do? Just know that they don't, and be surprised if they do.
That's great.
It'll put you in a whole lot better headspace.
Cool.
Okay.
One more question here. It's in the chat box. I just hired one person for bather. She does 7 dogs by herself. How many more dogs should I expect to get done with extra help?
Yeah,
Kind of a
great
grooming
question. So you must be a groomer, Gabriella. So
Yeah.
so here's the thing. There's a variety, and this is an answer that's going to take a lot longer than just the last couple minutes we've got, Gabriella. So I would encourage you to reach out to me, and my email is in the chat listing as well, joez@petsmv.com. But I will tell you this: in my grooming model, I had everybody doing their own dog start to finish. So Gabriella, you would still do 7 dogs a day yourself, but that person, if we can train them to do their own dog start to finish, then they also will do 7, 8, 9, 10 dogs a day, because they are a groom tech. We don't call them bathers. We call them groom techs, right? So they will be able to do more dogs on their own start to finish than you could ever even imagine adding to your workload to do in a day. So it's about working smarter, not harder. And it's not about you doing more dogs because now you have an assistant. It's about them doing their own dogs and you still do your 7.
Cool.
Okay.
Joe, I can't thank you enough. This information was fascinating. The beginning about, marketing, thinking about marketing to potential employees, just like you would, or similar to a customer. It's just like, it's one of those things. It's like, why did I think of that? That seems really such a simple thing, but you really don't think about it like that. And I think it's given us all a lot to contemplate. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The content of this was fantastic.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that CEU code is C as in cat, 220008. Everyone that registered will get a link to the recording. So if you want anybody in your pet care center to watch it, or you want to watch it again, you'll get that recording as well. So thank you all so much. Check out PAC, check out Paragon. We're glad to have you. Joe, anything else you want to say before I stop the recording?
No, come check us out. We'd love to help you at Paragon. So take care.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.